What is good? Osiris here, stuck in the middle. Developing story. I touched on it yesterday with Jenna Ellis, and I gave her the benefit of the doubt. And, a lot of times when you do that, you make an ass out of yourself. And that's what's happened. I'm just shocked to see this. This is in regards to Ron DeSantis and the whole state of Florida. They're just one body right now. The legislative body and the governor, man, they're coming through and they're wrecking shop. And that's, you can say what you want about it, but that's what happens when you have a trifecta. When you have all levels of government and they're pretty much all on the same page, and then you got the movement with the people. Florida is its own country right now. It's not even a part of, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying that's in a good way. They're doing their own thing. So what's happening in Florida is historic right now. This is not, people said, oh, this division and all this stuff is on Twitter. Disney just lost their special privileges to run their own government in Florida. This ain't a Twitter thing. This is real life coming at us really fast. This is not Twitter. So I heard some people on mainstream media talking about, oh, this Governor Ron DeSantis is playing to the Twitter crowd. Well, okay, maybe he is, but the reality is hitting you in the face right now like a bucket of cold water. But let me get to Jenna. The breaking news, the developing story is Jenna Ellis. One of my favorite movies of all time. The first half of this movie I just absolutely love was Michael Douglas in Falling Down. Gosh, I love that movie. Where he's just like, you know what? I've had enough. And he just walks through the city, and if you haven't seen Falling Down, you got to see the first half of it. Kind of reminds me of The Office. I kind of love the first half of these movies, and then the second half not as much. Oh man, Falling Down is so good. And he was falling down in, I would argue, somewhat of a good way. It was kind of crazy, but this is not a good way. Jenna Ellis talked about it yesterday. She is the former Trump lawyer. Former lawyer for 45, came to prominence. I didn't know who the hell she was until the end of 2020. And I do follow her. And it might sound, it feels like to me that I say this a lot, like I respect this person, I respect that person. And I do. It's because I only talk about people I respect. If Jenna Ellis was some clown I didn't respect, even when I talk about Jamel Hill, Nicole Hannah-Jones, well, Dr. Ibram X. Kendi, he's an exception. I don't really respect him much. But for the most part, when I'm bringing up people, it is out of respect. And I don't know why I don't respect him. I respect Nicole Hannah-Jones, but not him. Because I think she's done more to present herself more as a real person. And she does interact even with people, even though she's blocked me now. I digress. I respect Jenna Ellis. She's a constitutional lawyer, purports herself to be an advocate for the Constitution. And right now on Twitter, she's melting down. This is tough to watch. And there are moments where you have to decide, is this the proverbial hill? Even if you think this way, Jenna, I think you need to pause the app, go on your phone or whatever, hit pause on Twitter, and go outside, enjoy the weather, go to the spa, do golf, do whatever the hell you do to just relax. And then really think, is this the hill? Because, for example, I disagree with a lot of people on the populist right on abortion. I think they're authoritarian on that. That ain't the hill for me. I will express I'm not changing my mind, but I'm not going to be out there and being like, this is the hill for me to die on. Because it's not. It's not the hill for me to die on. I agree with a lot of other things. Race is a hill for me to die on. That's why I can't rock with the populist left on a lot of things. They do, every time you listen, it's black this, it's black that. I'm like, y'all need to go figure that out. That ain't the way forward. So I have to pick my hills. Race is a hill. If you come out here, yes, DF, children were on the line. So DF here came in and said, our children were on the line. Sorry, Jenna, bye. So there's a hill here, Jenna. Is this the hill? And I would be fully for it. Let me explain it. This is tough to watch. It's really tough to watch. So this is a developing story. I'm just going to go on her timeline to show you what's going on. Let's play a little bit of this to kind of set not a lot of it, just a
Let's circle back to the action on Disney this morning, because some dissent isn't just coming from the left. We'd like to bring in constitutional law attorney and Newsmax contributor Jenna Ellis. Jenna, welcome. Thank you for joining our discussion. I know that you have a very different take on this whole thing. You've called it misguided. Can you explain to us why?
Yeah, because it's unconstitutional. So
Oh, my Lord. Yesterday, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. And when I do that, y'all, please tell me to stop. It's no more. And Tim Pool's very good on that. We were talking about Biden and him saying true pressure or whatever and Batacalf care and all that kind of stuff. And Tim's like, don't give him the benefit of the doubt. If he said Iran, it's Iran. If he said Syria, it's Syria until he corrects it. And I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, she's a constitutional lawyer. There's no way she could be arguing that laws, that the constitutional law. She's not arguing that the law that Florida passed. Well, maybe she is. I'm not going to speak for her. But the law that Florida passed stripped Disney of their special. They had like God powers in a video game, basically, and it stripped it from it. I'm not an expert in it, so just in general, that's what happened. And then Jenna said it's unconstitutional because Florida came up and spoke against the Parental Rights Act. And I'm like, what? So what's the argument here? So if they would have done it before they spoke up, would it have been okay, Jenna? And now that they spoke up, what's the time frame on this that they can't pass a law that would the law doesn't say Disney's, specifically, it's stripping a special right. It's not like everybody's neutral and then the law says Disney can't do this. He's just putting them back to where everybody else is at. So the law itself, it seems legit. So I think she's coming from the standpoint, I'm going to play a little bit more here. She's coming from the standpoint of she's worried that she's very devout in her faith. And I think she's worried that a blue state could do it to a church or some type of organization that she believes in. And yeah, they could. Okay. I'm going to give you my conclusion here. I don't know how long I'm going to stay on, but I'm going to give you my conclusion as to why she's melting down. But this constitutional, am I explaining myself clearly enough? Like, what's the argument here? Let's play a little bit more.
Like the consumer pushback and retaliation, which is perfectly appropriate. When a government retaliates against freedom of speech and exercising of a constitutionally protected right, that is a black letter constitutional violation. And so the Supreme Court has even held that when it's retaliation against an individual or corporation that's exercising freedom of speech and the government retaliates, that even gives rise to a Section 1983 claim, which is basically deprivation of a constitutionally protected right. And so with the two
So what are we saying here? So I could be a company in a blue state, and I might say, I don't like how y'all are doing these very loose laws to let criminals off and easy bail and all this bail reform and all these things that are increasing crime. And I might say, I don't like how y'all are doing that. So because I said that as a company, and is it just a big company or is it any company, Jen? Is it, if I'm a barbershop on the corner and I speak out against the government, am I immune from the government to do any legislation that might negatively affect me? What the hell kind of argument is she making? She's conflating emotions and morals with legality. There's nowhere in the bill that they said we're doing this. If they had put in the bill, we're doing this in retaliation, and anybody else who rises up. Now, obviously, they're not going to do that. They're not stupid enough to do that. But that's the facts of it. It's not in the bill. So how do you stop it? Yes, Jenna, it's just hitting you right now. We're in a civil war. Informational, fifth generation. But that's what's happening. And if it's legal, it's going to go down. And if they might try to do stuff that's not legal. That's what's happening. Disney might have to move the hell on out of there. That's what's happening. We've got the Mason-Dixon line. The Florida government, all they said was, you can't have secrets between a parent and a child. And K through 12, which is that's so soft. K through third grade. When the bill first came out, I believe I read it on a way back video. It was K through 6, I believe, 6th grade. So this is the bill that has Disney on an uproar over some nonsense? And then, yeah, I agree. It is in retaliation. But how do you prove that? It's not in the legislation. So what, are you just mind reading now? Even if DeSantis says it's in retaliation, the bill doesn't say that. So what are we doing here? No one could pass any legislation if every time legislation passes, we have to look and say, okay, what did they say about me? Okay, they said this positive, they said this negative. And Jenna, how do you total that up? Are you taking point tallies? Disney has donated to these Republicans. Does that count? Or like, I don't understand what to take. She is mentally gone, y'all. This is bad. This is really, really bad. I thought it was going to cool over after yesterday. Sometimes you can be so smart that and when things get difficult, there's a lot going on, you can just go completely wacko. And I still like her, don't get me wrong. I hope she recovers. This is crazy.
Representatives here, I fully appreciate and agree with their sentiments. I completely disagree with Disney's woke corporate stance, but freedom of speech is freedom of speech in this country, and we have to make sure that we are protecting and preserving the right of every
So I gotta stop it again. I want to say it again. Thank you, Dina Marie, friend of show. Everybody's a friend of show, but I want to highlight Dina Marie. Thank you for stopping by. Disney Marie says Disney is a guest in our state. They can leave. You can get the hell on out of there. Nobody's stopping you. I know it would be difficult. Maybe you should have thought about that before you spoke up against the government that Florida ain't playing no games. You probably should have thought about that first. And before this all went down, I did a video saying Disney could have just been like, hey, for our LGBTQ or anybody who didn't like the law, I hear you. But everybody doesn't have to agree with you. I know that sounds like a radical thing. I know that sounds crazy. Everybody doesn't have to agree with you. I don't care how righteous you think your position is. We all don't agree. And you're not even basing your concern on the facts of the bill. So here's what the thing is. Disney, we make movies for people. So you can come together, get some popcorn, and hug your kids. We make that for Republicans, DeSantis Republicans. We make that for dark MAGA. We did make it for the bootlicking left. It doesn't matter. So we'll do increased representation. I hope that makes you feel like we understand your concern and will help things going forward. But we're not going to speak out against DeSantis. People don't agree. Everybody doesn't have to agree. Disney could have said that. They probably wish they did now. Don't be stupid. This is peak. You fucked around and found out. That's what happened. Sorry. Should have thought about it. Got to be smart. That's what that is. That is the definition of mess around and find out. That's what I don't want to happen with Russia and Ukraine. Russia's been giving warnings. You keep giving Ukraine weapons, and there will be consequences. There will be problems. A company that has thousands of nukes. And what are we doing? 3.5 bill, 800 there, 800 there. And Vladimir Zelensky recently said, you know what? We might need $7 billion a month. Okay. You keep giving them that money. You keep giving them those weapons. We are going to mess around and find out. And that's what Disney did. This isn't a game. I didn't think it was going to happen. I mean, it happened so quickly. I was like, whoa. So Jenna is thinking about this from the standpoint of just morals. Forget about the Constitution. Is it right to just do a bill in retaliation? Like, say Disney didn't say anything. Maybe they had a neutral stance. I don't think Florida would have done this. That is a great moral question to ask. And I will clearly state my opinion. I am still okay with it. I agree that is a morally gray area borderline. Is it the right thing to do? Just because they spoke out against you? No, I don't think it is. But I'm going to just do my conclusion now because who knows when I'll end the live. What's happening to Jenna is realizing right now in front of our very eyes that we do not share enough connection together to warrant us having a union. We need to decentralize and let Florida do Florida, let Georgia do Georgia, and states will form allies, and hopefully we're all peaceful, but get the central government out of it and let people do what they need to do. And what part of that is, Disney, you need to go on, if this is a problem for you, you need to get the hell on out of the state. As big as you are, as much money as you have, as much power as you have, this is not a game. That is the clearest thing that we have seen now. It's not a game. It's not a joke. This thing happened so quickly. He did the special session, and I was like, okay. I thought he was doing it for sure, like, you know what? They spoke up against us. We'll do the special session. We'll throw it on there. And I didn't do a video, but if I did a video at the time, I would have been like, they're just throwing it on there just to say, hey, watch yourself. They did a little bit more than that. They went and got that belt. Just like back in the day when your guardian, father, mother, you messed around. Your parents might have said, no, I don't right now, no more TV. And you messed around and you turned on the TV. Your parents might have said, you know what, I need you home by dark. You know, when the street lights come on, your ass better be on home. My mom even had, back in the day, a dinner bell. She was like, when dinner comes, you better be close enough to hear this dinner bell. I don't know where you're going to be, but when I ring this bell, your little ass better run your ass home and be ready to eat dinner. And so that's what happened to Disney. They didn't listen, and DeSantis had to get that belt, man. Disney didn't think. Disney, you know how sometimes kids be like, nah, they ain't gonna get the belt. That's old school stuff. They ain't doing that stuff now. Kids need safe rooms. But so for my mom would get the broom. She didn't really mess with the belt. My dad would get the belt though, not often, because I was like, I didn't want those problems. Disney got that lesson. That's the takeaway, Jenna. There's no legality about it. There's nothing else to be done. Just if you need to move. If you 18 or older, don't live under your parents' crib. Florida is turning more and more red. You got to read the tea leaves. So, but here's the other thing, though. I'm going to play some more of the Jenna stuff. I haven't even listened to this clip yet. I'm going to play more of it, but understand there will be, and I think Jenna's thinking about this. What Jenna's thinking is like, oh, shoot, this is kind of an escalation. So she's thinking about those churches in those blue areas and stuff like that, those places that have maybe a trifecta. I don't know off my top of my head, but Democrat trifectas. Like Colorado has a Democrat trifecta. That's why Polis has been able to do a lot. And Jenna's a little worried about, what might they do? Jenna, don't worry about that. Let it happen. As long as it's peaceful, you're going to have to, and that goes to people too. Because you might have to, like, if you're really worried about the abortion stuff, you're going to have to go to a different state. And I'm fine with that. Leave it up to the states. I don't think that should be a federal thing. It's all coming into Jenna's head, and she doesn't know how to deal with it.
Individual to speak without government retaliation.
Representative Ngoglia, how do you respond?
Well, I just disagree with that, because this isn't going after Disney themselves per se. This is going after 6 districts that were written into law with pre-1968 Constitution. They have special privileges.
I do want to be honest here. I don't like how because I would respond by, Jenna, yeah, we know this is retaliation. Like, I can't prove it, but we know that. But that's not legal, though. So you're a lawyer. We need to decide. We need to draw a line right now, Jenna. Are you talking about morals or are you talking about constitutionality? And then Jenna will say it's unconstitutional. Then I can go down that path. But I'm not going to lie and say it's not retaliation. Are you crazy? Chapek, is his name Chapek, came up in DeSantis' office. I would love to hear what that conversation was about. Because I thought it would have been like, hey, Ron, man, I got this pressure from my employees. What are we going to do and all that? I think it must have been heated. That thing didn't go well. Whatever they talked about, that didn't go well.
Under Florida law. So all we're doing here is we are taking away those special privileges, not just from Reedy Creek, but the other ones. Now, it just happens to be that Disney is the corporation that runs Reedy Creek. So they're caught up in it. But look, all we're doing is leveling the playing field. Other corporations, other districts don't have these same privileges. We're just getting away from those special privileges.
You know, that's
But
a really interesting...
respectfully, though, and I'll read Representative Sabatini's tweet today that actually admits that this is retaliation. He said in an interview with NBC News today about our Florida response to woke Disney's sick push to sexualize Florida's classroom, this corporate radicalism will not stand. Looking forward to voting yes today to end Disney's special.
Okay, but so he said that, but is it in the legislation? So, I mean, that will have to be up to the courts or whatever if Disney sues. Maybe Jenna has a point there. I don't know. I don't think she does, but she's the expert. So I can't be overriding an expert. But that's not in the legislation. If they wrote in the legislation something to that effect, then it would be there. So now we're going to judge the intent. So now we're going to take, are we going down this route, Jenna? Are you serious? With all the rhetoric that politicians use? How are we going to exist like this? How often do politicians say, well, this is in response to Donald Trump and all the craziness and insurrection? So so are we going to use that as saying, hey, you can't do it because you were talking about my free speech? This is Pandora's box if I've ever seen it, Jenna. You're not making any sense. So we're using a tweet from a congressperson saying this, basically implying that this was retaliation. So is that the new precedence going forward? That's all politicians do, is say that this is for retaliation. This is in response to this. This is a response to that. Is Jenna's, geez, she's in a bad place, man, because that doesn't make any sense.
Tax status. That is textbook retaliation.
I'm so glad you said that, Jenna.
Representative Sabatini, your response.
Sure, yeah. So I'm a big fan of Jenna. I think she's great, but she's totally wrong in this case. The Section 1983 suit would be good for if we were denying a general right or privilege that they were entitled to. But these are gratuitous statutory exemptions and special treatment that they've had.
Yeah, and even if they didn't write in the law it was retaliation, I think Jenna would have a point if they said, hey, and everything was on an even playing field, and they said, I know wouldn't happen, but you said, hey, Disney, we're going to have to tax you more. And it's just about Disney. It's not about anybody else. Then I would be like, that doesn't make any sense. So this was affecting Disney. I didn't read it. I got to read that to see if Disney was, labeled. They probably had to. But what they're saying is they got special. So everybody's here. Disney got special stuff. So to take it away and bring them down here, how can you say that's unconstitutional? And like I said before, so if they would have done it before Disney spoke out, would that have been okay, Jenna? And then, so it's not okay after Disney spoke out. So how long do we have to wait after Disney? Is it just a year? Is it 3 months? Is it until the CEO changes? Like, what? We don't even know. All of this stuff doesn't make any sense.
In Florida for 60 years that they were never entitled to. The truth of the matter is we really should have pulled these away 20, 30, 40 years ago, possibly even longer. We're just getting around to it because they drew attention to this corrupt special privilege.
Can you imagine being a guest in somebody's crib? Obviously, Disney thought that they were the bosses. And maybe they were for so many years. And this is all credit. You've got to give credit for Trump. Trump came as the face of the populist right. He's a mascot, doesn't have much substance. But without Trump, this stuff would have never happened. And this populist right movement is driving politicians who are actually, because I always thought Ron DeSantis was an establishment dude. But even if you're an establishment dude, just like Ted Cruz, and you want to have a pulse with the people, just like the late, great Rush Limbaugh. The late, great Rush Limbaugh was an establishment dude. He was not a populist. But you could think he was in a way because he had Nobody had his pulse on what the people felt more than him. And Ted Cruz kind of, I think, learned from Rush and others to, okay, I'm a Goldman, or my wife's Goldman Sachs or whatever and all that stuff, but I want to listen to what the people are like. And that's what Ron DeSantis is doing, and I think that's guiding him to success. So that's what's really driving this. Is Disney thought that they ruled that place. Could you imagine being a guest in someone else's house and thinking that, and you're getting special privileges? Maybe you don't have to pay rent. They had their own police force. And that hid some things that allegedly might have been unsavory, let's just say. But let's say you're a guest in somebody else's house, or just a landlord. Say it's not even family. It's just some dude. You went on Craigslist or something like that. I actually did this after I was homeless for a little bit. Went on Craigslist and got a house with a couple people. But let's say I went on Craigslist. I'm like, damn, Craig, is it even up anymore? I'm dating myself, Craigslist. I went on Craigslist. I was like, dang, I need to get a place, and I don't want to do a background check and all that kind of stuff. And they were like, okay, yeah. And the landlord said, you can come through rent free. Yeah, it's all good as long as you maybe, help me get tenants or whatever the agreement is. It's rent free. And can you imagine me going out and calling that landlord just evil? And how could he do it? This landlord did this rule, regardless if it was evil or not. And think that the landlord's not going to say, bruh, you would need to pay a couple G's a month if you want to stay here, just like everybody else. Not different, not higher. Everybody else in the crib is paying 2 G's a month. Starting May, I'm going to need that 2 G's from you, bruh. And can you imagine speaking out and thinking that wasn't going to happen? That's where we are.
They've had under the law. So they have no legal case whatsoever. They just are going to say that to get the media narrative going.
And Jenna, what I was going to ask you is, if they had passed this law without discussing their motive, that would have been a different situation, correct?
Yes, and that's where retaliation under the law, and I agree with you that Disney isn't necessarily entitled to these privileges, but when a government specifically acts for deprivation of a constitutional right in retaliation, then it...
Sorry, I got to keep unmuting this because I don't want to echo. So we had I didn't even remember who she said admitted it was retaliation. It was passed by the whole legislation, the whole legislative body and the governor. So Jenna, are we taking total? Some of them might have said, I didn't do this because of retaliation. I think we should have done this years ago. So what is it, Jenna? Are you going to keep a scorecard? Are we going to ask everybody? Is that what we got to do now? Everybody who voted yes for a bill in any state, was it for retaliation for someone who said this on Twitter? Or they did what is she? Man, Jenna, take a break, girl, just relax. I think where I'm at, the weather's getting warm. People starting to wear shorts, go take a swim, go do something, please.
It becomes an issue on an otherwise perfectly legitimate and legal and lawful act. The problem here is that everybody knows in the state of Florida, and Governor DeSantis has admitted that this is in retaliation against a woke company. That's where you're going to run into legal trouble. And I really wish that wasn't the case, because I agree with your sentiment against Disney. I just think this is the wrong way to go about it, and you're not going to win this legal fight.
Representatives, before we go, I would like to get...
What is the right way, Jenna? So Disney spoke out against the state, and they want to take the rights away, the special rights away. Jenna, what is the right way? I don't understand. Is it just because you said something on Twitter? I mean, what is the right way? Everyone just be silent, radio silence?
Get your final thoughts. Representative Ngolia, I'll start with you.
Yeah, look, I understand Jenna's point, but I do disagree. I mean, we have the right as a legislator to take away the authority that was granted to them pre-1968 when we had our Constitution. And that's all we're doing here, is we're leveling the playing field. Motive or not, we have the statutory authority to do what we did today. Now, yes, we do not agree with Disney's woke stance, but we're also going on offense here. We're showing the rest of the country, the governor our governor, Governor DeSantis, showing the rest of the country we're not going to stand up.
So I want to talk about this. Liminal, thank you for the comments, is going from the angle of this is government overreach. Help me understand that. So what I'm seeing is government passed a piece of legislation. And how is that government overreach? I'm trying to figure out. Yes, but so Liminal says pedos are employed by any and all kinds of companies, but every company doesn't manage their own police force. To my knowledge, Disney ran their own police force, basically. I'll have to look that up. That's what my understanding was. The whole thing was their own government. I'm trying to look real quick on Google, see if I find anything. It was, what is Disney's self-governing Reedy Creek? What is it? Okay, let's look at this article real quick. Does this matter to you, Liminal, or not, that if they were policing themselves? Let me search on police. I've not read this article, so I'm just going to do a search. Police, no police. Let's see here. So this is an article on it. Maybe Dina Marie knows. She's very knowledgeable on this. And I thought they were running their own force, and maybe the governor could get involved or something like that. But so this quote here is, Disney has gotten away with special deals from the state of Florida for way too long. If Disney wants to pick a fight, they chose the wrong guy. So that, I agree, that's a proof of, sounds to me like proof of retaliation. But it's just political rhetoric, though. How do you police if something's retaliation or not? Every single time a piece of legislation comes, that's what politicians say. Let me see. I don't know if any of you know. So Dina Marie says, yes, Disney has their own police and fire. That's what I read. So you can't say every company has pedos and Disney's the one investigating their own pedos, if I'm accurate there. That doesn't fly. And Echuck has the point that really matters. A lot of people, man, this thing, and I kind of went back and forth with people on the channel on this one with Ketanji Brown Jackson, where I was like, does she look the part of like a pro-pedo? So why are we going this route? But you got to listen to the will of the people, man. People are not in the mood for this messing with children type stuff. Just not in the mood for it. So it doesn't matter what I care about. Does she fit the role or not? People are like, anybody fits the role at this point if they're not harsh enough. So I think the real pressure should have been on the Congress to update the laws. But the feedback on Ketanji Brown Jackson is that's how the people feel. Echuck's saying it right there. You got to read the tea leaves. People are not in the mood at all. And that's part of the reason why Libs of TikTok rose up, because it's like, here's some evidence. We didn't know how widespread it was, but we knew that it was at least some teachers and people doing inappropriate stuff. And we saw it on Libs of TikTok. And laws are designed in a large part for the minority. So I don't know if it even matters how many people are doing this kind of thing. It's an issue. I mean, how many people commit some of these heinous crimes? We still got laws for them. So, yeah, Craigslist is still on. Okay, thanks, Mr. X. I haven't been on Craigslist in probably 20 years. DF, a multitude of issues. Look it up, banning their products for one. Oh, it's Liminal. Okay. But a good discussion. I think Liminal, a corporation governing themselves who openly talk about defying the state government in which they reside, and you want to talk about government overreach. Yeah, the government overreach was giving them the special powers. Now, the libertarian approach is just give everybody their special powers, which is fine, but that's obviously not realistic, not happening. So then vote on it. So I'm trying to see. So he's saying the corporation governing themselves, it was already voted on through, you send your representatives to the state house, state senate, and DeSantis. So it's already voted on. The people are in Florida are, to my knowledge, they're fine with this. I haven't heard though about the people who have to pay more in taxes. Is it $2,000 a year more to cover for the debt or something like that? I got to read up on that. But I mean, it's up to them if they're happy with it. If you can afford it and you are that amped up about the culture war, civil war, or just keeping Disney in check, I think the right thing to do is Disney can't be its own government. That's very scary. Like, do we even really know what's going on over there? What's happening underground over there? Like, does anybody investigate over there? Do they inspect? Like, do they have their own? What do they not? Do they have their own military stuff? I mean, I'm very big on the balance of life. And if someone is, Disney's exterior is this family-friendly, kids-friendly type of thing. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a dark, something behind it, especially when they're running their own government. Governments don't tend to be nice entities. So that's a little bit off topic, but I'm still struggling, Liminal. Are you saying there's something legal or constitutionally wrong? That's where I'm morally, I will flat out admit, and Dina Marie and anybody else, tell me what you think. Morally, it is definitely gray area to just say, I'm only doing this because of retaliation. I'm fine with it. So I guess I would say morally it's fine, but I understand Jenna's point there. She doesn't want if the roles were reversed, she doesn't want it to happen. But what she has to come to grips on is we need to start making moves, and we don't have enough commonality to keep this together. So let me see. Liminal, and I appreciate the respectful discussion. Liminal says, why didn't DeSantis take this action long ago? Yeah, I agree. But where's the problem, though? It's not illegal. Are you arguing that it's illegal? I completely agree. They could have done this a long time ago. But maybe they were like, and DeSantis just came into power. He's relatively new. So it's not like he's been there for 20 years or anything. But yeah, Florida in general could have done that. But things change. Florida is more populist red now. It's not just red. At least with DeSantis at the helm, that's the thing that you worry about if DeSantis leaves for president or whatever, who's going to take over. But right now, it's not just red. It's a populist red, which is great. That's why I like it. I don't care about red. Mitch McConnell's red. He's trash. So the state's in a different place. You got to read the room. You got to look around and be like, wait a second, it's not 1985 anymore. It ain't 68. These people rising on up. You can ban us. You can ban people from Twitter or social media. You can try to silence their voices. You can fire them. You can do whatever you want, but that doesn't change what people feel in their heart. So Disney didn't read the room. Now, understand, there could be retaliation back in some way. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if it's a different state or whatever. And as long as it's legal, I'm all for it. And that's what Jenna's concern is. But it's okay. Disney's not the only one that's going to have to align with where they are. DF said it's 1984. The facts. Man. I'm going to be out in a little bit here, but yeah. So historically, Florida's been a purple state, right? Historically, kind of back and forth, a little reddish here and that, but it's never been populist driven red. That's for sure. This is a new phenomenon. That's why I had to give Trump credit for it. You've got to give Trump credit for what he was able to do. And people are looking at the populist left and there's no one really there. They haven't found their Trump who can somehow break through it. Bernie wasn't really he's an establishment dude that fakes like a populist. Trump was just like I have no ideology. This is the path that helps me. I will listen to the people. I like these, the people that follow me, and I'm going to run with it. That's what the left needs. And you might think I'm crazy, but Jon Stewart, I'm thinking about doing a video on this. Before he went woke now, forget about this. Before he went woke, he would have been, I think, the perfect type of person who has no experience in D.C., who could rock the boat, who won't be afraid to say anything against anyone. Bernie was afraid to come hard against people. Even now, Bernie's coming out and saying, I might run. I know he's like 80-something years old, but he's like, I might run if Biden doesn't run. that he's not the one. The person who's the Neo in the Matrix for the populist left will come out and say, F Biden. I'm running regardless. Remember when Trump came on the scene and we were like, oh my goodness, this dude has taken all decorum and societal norms and took them and threw them in the trash. How do you take over? And somebody on Twitter was talking about, hey, I wish Trump had more DeSantis in him. And I perfectly understand that. But you have to understand, Trump would have never taken over the Republican Party if he was more like DeSantis. He had to be a radical, crazy type of dude. I don't know what that looks like on the left, but it damn sure can't be anybody who's in D.C. already. I like Marianne Williamson. I like her a lot. It's the race stuff again is the thing that I'm like, y'all are so cringe with that. If they didn't talk about the race stuff like that, they would be more solid, even though they depend too much on the government. But I think someone who's an outsider, that's why they tore down Marianne Williamson. That's why Tulsi left. Tulsi's like, if I'm going to do this, I can't do this as a D.C. person. I got to do it as like, I'm just me. And that's why I like Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang's talking about the parties don't matter. So you got to read the tea leaves. And that goes for citizens. I really care more about citizens. If you are in an area of the country where people hate you, you need to move. And I respect if you want to kind of fight to change things through the legislative process, but you're putting yourself at risk. And I respect that. So do that. But to me, it's like, you got to get out of there. And that's what Disney has to do. Disney has to decide. I think they've already made their choice. They can't backtrack off this. I don't know where they're going to go, but they got to make that decision to make that move. And as soon as they move, someone else is going to come in there. Watch the Daily Wire. I don't know where they're getting this money from, but they got a lot of subscribers. But Tim Pool, before I go out, I'm going to be out here in a couple minutes. Tim Pool talked about, he's been hinting at, I've got an announcement coming. And we're going to see another Justice League pairing. I think it's going to be him. Who knows? I'm just speculating because he just went to Nashville, obviously, so everybody knows. It could be him and Daily Wire. Harry's messed around and found out. Daily Wire, I believe, said they're going to do kid shows now because of Disney. So imagine if Disney went out and then Daily Wire is like, Elon or whoever else, come invest. We're going to take that whole park over. And then now we've got, we don't have a physical Mason-Dixon line, but we'll have physical territories where, like Florida, we're populous red, and we're going to make sure it stays populous red. And then I don't know where North Carolina is now, man. They just seem kind of purplish to me, but you're going to see more purples having to make that decision. So I think it's a good thing. I think it's actually a good thing what we're seeing. We're seeing the divide here, and it's going to come out in a good way. Jenna's still on Twitter. Jenna, put it down. Jenna, put down the phone. I've had to do it too, where I'm like, you know what? This tweet is really cringe. Pause. I just put a pause on the app. No getting any notifications. I don't even think about it. I'll forget about it for all of like 5 hours. And then I'm like, oh, I haven't been on Twitter in a while. But for me, Twitter is more, it's more for, that's how I get my thoughts out and formulate a lot of the shows and stuff. So what is she saying here? Her point is the timing of the issue. So when is the right time, bruh? So when is the right time? And is that time frame in the Constitution? It makes no sense. That argument makes no sense. This is the fall of our society, and people kind of, is it called cognitive dissonance? Is that what it's called? Let me look that up real quick. I'm not real good with these terms here. Cognitive dissonance is the term for the state of discomfort felt when two or more modes of thought contradict each other. I think that's what I'm describing here, where they're like, I wish that we had enough together as a country where Ron DeSantis didn't feel the need to do this. And they don't want to admit that means we have to divorce. So they're saying it's unconstitutional to avoid having to admit it. I think that's what they're saying. Well, thanks a lot for hanging out. Cognitive dissonance is what I think is the right term here. But Casual Goats, what's up, man? Start it over if you just had to. I just want to go fishing. Yeah. And you know what? Casual Goats, holla at Jenna. She needs someone to go fishing with because she needs to get the hell off of Twitter. Take care.